So for this video, I want to quickly run you through two user journeys that you would typically find for users of Predia. The first user journey is targeted at the real estate developer that wants to find a new plot or a new opportunity. In this case, the person knows relatively precisely what they want. So they start with added floor potential. So they want to build and develop something new which has more potential than today, and added floors is a great example for that. Then the person looks into only residential buildings because that's what the fund is designed for. It also looks for buildings which are older than 30 years because if you want to break something down and build something new, you don't want to break something down which is relatively newly built. And then the fund is looking for something of less than 10,000 per square meter in order to have great development potential on top. All of this with a focus on a district of Altstetten, where the person already identified there's great new development potential available. So that narrows down the search and will give you a much better chance at finding actually good properties. So now the person identified actually an interesting opportunity. This is a building with 2 floors currently and up to 4 added floors which can be built. With this information, the person looks around what our neighboring buildings currently have in terms of floors. So you see there's 4, there's 6, there's 5 floors with all the surrounding buildings that the person can identify. So important here is to notice that these search criteria are applied over all buildings within a district, not the ones which are currently for sale. And now going back to the building, there wants to be a quick check, is this actually in the same zoning law? Because if you compare buildings which are neighboring buildings, you want to make sure that they are in the same zone, because only then you can actually draw conclusions from those buildings to the building that you are looking at the moment. And indeed, they're all part of the same zone. It's a W5 plus zone, which indicates that there can be 5 floors built above ground. So the next check the person wants to do is to look for buildings which have been built relatively newly. And within the direct neighborhood, the person only finds buildings which have been built in the 1930s, 1950s. So this doesn't really give you a good indication in terms of square meter price which can be achieved. So that's why the person really wants to find something from the past 10 years. And luckily, not that far is a building from 2012. It has a much higher square meter price. So that's why the person quickly has a look. Is there maybe a shop in the ground floor? And indeed, there is a grocery store in the ground floor. So it's a mixed-use building that explains partially why there's a much higher square meter price. But that gives already a very good indication that there's a lot of development potential within that specific area. So now with the first check in terms of what can be built in terms of additional floors and what does the zoning law tell us, or what building zone and what the zone is telling us in terms of general law, the person wants to really go into depth and say, this is now an opportunity. I want to look at all the legal information. So now with one click, you can download all the legal base data from the government site in Zurich and actually get a very clear understanding what is possible and what is not possible to be built on that plot. As a last sanity check, the person also wants to look into what are potential educational experiences around the plot, because this is something, if you develop for residential purposes, which is really important. So maybe you have a family moving in there, so you want to see if there's a school or kindergarten next by. And luckily that's the case. Overall, this seems to be like a really good investment opportunity. Now I want to run you through a complete different user journey. So this is the journey where you have actually a great investment opportunity on your desk. We're still going to consider the same type of developer that wants to develop something new. In this case, you can simply type in the address of the property which has been landing on your desk, and you quickly get all the information you need. So in this case, you have a property from the 1899, being in a district conservation zone, already having all the floors built, probably very difficult to renovate or to make major changes to the building by law. This typically would not be an opportunity you would look long after, because it really doesn't fit your investment profile. So these are 2 user journeys how you can use Predia today, and I hope this can give you a little glimpse on how digital twins really transform the search for new properties for the real estate industry.